Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Hope you're all having a great day. And with no further ado, let's get into the weekly recap starting back on Thanksgiving. Hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving. And let's start with obviously the first game, Packers at the Lions. And this Green Bay team over the past couple of weeks has started to play more consistently. If Jordan Love continues to put up the performances like he did on Thursday, this Packers team is a Super Bowl contender. And this defense, we all know it's one of the best in the league, especially over the past couple of weeks. And if this offense can consistently play well, like they have been playing over the past couple of weeks, watch out for the Packers to be a scary team as we look more into the rest of the season now that we only have a month left, which is crazy to say. For the Lions, I don't want to say the season's over with, but it's clear that while they got Kelvin Shepard, replacing Aaron Glenn, they were not able to replace Ben Johnson, and I think that's going to be a big thing that Dan Campbell needs to do this offseason. Find a good offensive coordinator because this team is talented and should not be 7-5. They should have 8-9 wins and be competing for that number one seed. I don't want to say the season's over with, but if they lose to the Cowboys this week, you might just have to wrap it up. Moving on to the 4 o'clock game on Thanksgiving, Chiefs at Cowboys. I mean, talk about a turnaround for Dallas. I mean, this offense was obviously playing great, lights out, and this defense has been looking phenomenal. Now, the offenses they've played have not been the greatest, but still, they've been playing really excellent. And Dallas has won the last 3 games. If they beat the Lions this upcoming week, they could finish 11-5-1. And with the way the Eagles are playing, I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas wins this game with how good, wins the division with how good they've been looking and how bad Philly's been looking. So don't be forgetting Dallas. For the Chiefs, I mean, yeah, it's I don't want to say the season's over with, but this team just doesn't really seem to have it. And I don't know what it is. It just seems like this team is just not as good as years prior. It doesn't really seem like they have that extra gear to close out the year. They have a huge game against the Texans this week. If they lose that one and fall to 6-7, it might just be a lost season for the Chiefs. And maybe it's a blessing in disguise, and maybe a missing playoffs this year the team's able to reload. Maybe in the following year they're able to get back to contending. But this has just been a lost year, and for a team that obviously had Super Bowl aspirations every year under Mahomes and Reed, it might just be the first year where this team just is not as good, and we're going to realize that. Moving on to the nightcapper Bengals at Ravens. I mean, give credit to Cincinnati. Joe Burrow looked phenomenal. I mean, he was dicing up a Ravens defense that started to play well, but it was clearly because of the easy schedule and playing not so good offenses. Um, and they were really able to expose them. Burrow looked great. They're 4-8 now. It's still a long way back, but if they beat the Bills this upcoming week, they have a chance to sweep the Ravens. They could be 6-8 with their final 3 games against the Dolphins, Cardinals, and Browns. But obviously, if they have to win the next 2, the defense clearly is starting to play better. And hey, maybe if they just bring in more um, players to help out this defense in the coming years, the Bengals could get back with a healthy Burrow. For the Ravens, I mean, this was a game that they needed to win. They had won their last 5. The offense has not been looking good. Some people think it's because Lamar's in his head. Others say the O-line. I think it's a combination. The O-line is not very good, but I think Lamar got frustrated when the game just was not going the way he wanted it to. And they're 6-6, still in first place, but if the Ravens truly want to prove that they can still compete, you have to beat the Steelers next week. You have to potentially win both games against New England and Green Bay, if not at least one of those games. And they have to at least prove that maybe this team is still good because if they play like this the rest of the year, they are not sniffing the playoffs or even making it that far. And maybe this is a wake up call for the Ravens to finally realize this team needs to make changes or else they're never going to go back to winning Super Bowls and contending in the AFC. Moving on to the Black Friday game, Bears at Eagles. I mean, give credit. Ben Johnson has really turned around this Bears team. I mean, there was a stat thrown out that last year on Black Friday, the Bears fired Matt Eberflus. This year, they won their ninth game, which is crazy to say, but and they currently are the number one seed since LA fell to the Panthers. So give credit to Chicago. They look really good. It felt like this game could have been more of a blowout, but hey, despite Chicago having a lot of injuries on that defense, they have really been able to play well. And as they get more and more guys healthier, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears go on a run with how good this team looks. For the Eagles, I mean, I said throughout September, Philly was barely winning games, and teams were eventually going to figure them out, and it's starting to happen. I mean, since their bye week, the offense has been horrible, and they lucked out because they played two offenses very inconsistent, and the Packers and Lions, who both were also had just lost their tight ends and were figuring out the offense afterwards. But last week against Dallas, the blown lead. This week against the Bears, who had a banged up linebacking core, which you'd think would allow for Saquon to have a really good day, but Philly just couldn't do anything. I mean, outside of AJ Brown, the Eagles just were not able to play well, and they have a game against the Chargers this week. They play the Bills, later down in the season. They need to win those games if they want to repeat as division champs, or else Philly, this might just be another year where they're going to fail to make it that far, all because the coaches aren't very good and are holding this team back. Moving on to the Sunday 1 o'clock slate. I mean, starting off Panthers, Rams. I mean, this Panthers team makes no sense. 1 week, they look like they're finally turning into a competent organization. They look like they're finally going to play well. And then the next week, they fall apart. They lose to some bad or decent team, and the offense looks horrible. But I mean, I hope they can sustain these type of wins because if they can build off of these wins and going forward show that they're a premier contender, that would be great. But until we see it, I don't really know what to make. But hey, Bryce Young looked amazing. This offense looked phenomenal. That defense made plenty of plays down the stretch to really um, help the Panthers win. They're 7-6, and they're in this NFC South race and in the playoff race, which I don't think most people would have said at the beginning of the year. For the Rams, tough loss. It was eventually going to happen. They were eventually going to lose a game. They weren't going to just continue to win, but still, they have everything in front of them. They can still win the West and get the top seed, but hard loss. But hey, they're still in first place, and that's all you got to count for. For the Niners at the Browns, apparently it was the first time since 1984 the Niners have beaten the Browns in Cleveland. And I know that they don't play that much, because of not being in the same conference, but I feel like that's crazy. Um, but I mean, give credit to this Niners team. Um, they played well. The defense shut down a rookie quarterback. The offense did just enough against a very talented Browns off defense. and they're 9-4. They head on their bye. They play the Titans after the bye, and then they play the Seahawks, Colts, and I forget who else, but they play three playoff teams after Tennessee off the bye. So we'll see if this team is for real. But they're 9-4, and that's all you gotta ask for a team that's been banged up so much. And I feel like Kyle Shanahan should be in the Coach of the Year discussion with how good he's coached this year, despite all the injuries on the offensive and defensive side. And you just gotta give him, Robert Saleh, John Lynch credit for building this roster and coaching it very well to where they have a shot to make the playoffs. Cleveland, I mean, it was Shador's second start, and it looked like he was a rookie starting his second start. He has the Titans next week, which um should be a win. But the rest of the season is more so just Shador, giving a tryout to the Browns or any team in the league. He just needs to go out there, play decent enough, and he has the talent to be a starting quarterback in the league. Um, but we'll just have to see if Cleveland believes in the guy or if they want to go and draft a guy in this upcoming draft. On to an AFC South matchup: Texans at the Colts, and double fast, but Houston is right in a shot to make the um, playoffs and possibly win the AFC South. I mean, after that 0-3 start, they've won 7 of their last 9. And you just got to give credit to D'Amico Ryans and this team for staying with it. I mean, most teams that start 0-3, they're probably like, hey, we're not going to make the playoffs. But, and despite the bad offensive performances early in the season, he stuck with Nick Haley. He was like, hey, we're not going to move off from you being the offensive coordinator. And this team has looked really well. CJ Stroud came back and looked pretty good. The defense, obviously, we know is one of the best, and they're 7-5, and they made this AFC South race look pretty close. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, most people would have penciled in the Colts, but not so fast. They lost 3 of their last 4, and they play the Jags next week, and then they play the Niners and Texans. They play a lot of playoff teams at the end of the stretch. I wouldn't be surprised if Indy somehow missed the playoffs because of how tough that end of the schedule is, because of how they've been playing the past couple of weeks. And as much as people love to talk about Jonathan Taylor, Daniel Jones, Shane Steichen, this team is quietly starting to fall apart since they've played actual teams that are competing in the playoffs and not just easy teams that aren't very good. Moving on to the Saints at the Dolphins. I mean, you got to give credit to Mike McDaniel. Despite, early on in the year, most people thinking he'd get fired, he's really um, had this team playing well. And look, they have the Jets next week. They could be 6-7 before that game against the Steelers. If they win that one, they play the Bengals. I know they play the Pats. Um, but they have a real shot to potentially finish with a winning record, which is crazy to say with how bad the season started. But I think you got to give credit to Mike McDaniel and this coaching staff for keeping this team playing well despite everything outside. And I feel like Mike McDaniel should be given another year with his actual quarterback because he didn't draft Tua, and the Dolphins are eventually going to move on from Tua. Have Mike McDaniel be able to have his quarterback playing there. And if the team's playing well, maybe he could be the long-term coach in Miami. For New Orleans, I mean, this is what you want if you're the Saints. You play competitive, you lose the game, but the team looks decent and it's something to move off from. Tyler Shuck had another decent game. Um, I want to see what he looks like the rest of the year. Maybe New Orleans wants to give him a shot. There's a reason they picked him, in the second round using a top 40 pick on a guy. It's because they truly believed he could be the long-term answer, and he looked decent. And if you're New Orleans, kind of like the Giants and Titans, you kind of just want to lose out and then try to trade away your top pick to a QB needy team, get back some draft capital, and build around Shuck or whoever the long term guy is. Moving on, Falcons at the Jets. I mean, give credit to Aaron Glenn. After that 0-7 start, I think most people would have been like, this guy's one and done. He can't coach, be a head coach. This team is going to finish with the worst record, but they've won 3 of their last 5 games. And while they haven't been against the greatest competition. I mean, hey, a win is a win, and they're 3-9 now. They play the Dolphins next week. I forget who they play in a couple of weeks, but they could finish with 5, maybe 6 wins, and really be able to salvage the season and show there's something to build off for the future. For Atlanta, I mean, this is just another game that shows Raheem Morris and this coaching staff needs to be gone next season. I mean, another game that's winnable that they could have had a chance to win and they just blow it. I mean, they were up 7 points. They were up 24-17, and they had all the momentum, and then they just could not do anything, leading the Jets to be able to come back and stay in this game and ultimately win it. And they're 4-8. I don't see many wins left on their schedule. And if you're the Falcons, you just need to fire this coaching staff, bring in a coach who will actually help out this Falcons team get back to the 6-6 they had early on with Dan Quinn. And hopefully Michael Penix comes back and this team can actually build something for the future. Moving on to Cardinals at the Bucks. Tampa Bay, I mean, they end their 3-game losing streak, which is great, but this was not the greatest win. I mean, they were up double digits, and then they kind of let Arizona come back into the game, but they're 7-5. They have the Saints next week. They could be 8-5 with their final 4 games. They play the Panthers twice, so they have the opportunity to sweep them and win this division once again. But if that doesn't happen, if Carolina wins this division, even if Tampa Bay barely wins it, I feel like there has to be some coaching changes. Todd Bowles has kind of always escaped by because the team has been in a really easy division, so they've always kind of lucked in to win the division. And I feel like after the start to the season they had, everybody was like, hey, maybe they just needed to be a well-oiled machine, but I think changes need to happen if Tampa Bay doesn't win this division or if they barely win it by tiebreakers, because so far this Bucks team has not looked very good off their bye, and I think it has to be a concern for a team that a lot of people, including myself, thought could contend for the NFC this year. For the Cardinals, I mean, just another game, just like the Falcons, another game that shows this coaching staff needs to be fired. I mean, they never really were supposed to be in this game, but they had an opportunity. Their defense was clutching up, making stops, but the offense just could not do enough. And I think after this year, Jonathan Gannon has to be gone, and this Cardinals team needs to bring in a new coach to hopefully get them back to the Bruce Arians days where they were competing in the NFC and hopefully finally get this Cardinals team to contend in a really good division in the NFC West. Moving on to an AFC South tilt. Jags at Titans. Don't look so far, but the Jags are in first place over the Colts. I mean, it's crazy, but a couple of weeks ago, most people probably would have thought the Jags weren't even going to make the playoffs. They've won 3 straight. The offense has been looking up and down, but after a game last week against the Cardinals where it felt like everything was going to go wrong for them, they somehow won that game against a bad Titans team. They took care of business. They're 8-4. They have a huge game against the Colts this week. They could be 9-4 with their final four games being, and they could be in first place in the AFC South with a chance to win it and maybe get this team to the promises a lot of people thought Liam Cohen could do at the beginning of the year. For Tennessee, like I said with the Saints, um, you just want to lose out. Saints and Giants. You just want to lose out. Hope that you see promise from your young guys to build on, and hope you bring in the right coach. Hope you get a desperate team wanting a quarterback trading up, and you get all that draft capital to build around Cam Ward, and hopefully brighter days are in Tennessee for the future. On to the 4 o'clock games, Vikings at the Seahawks. I mean, the score might make it seem like Seattle dominated this game, but it was more so Minnesota just losing it. Like Seattle's offense did not play well against a very talented Minnesota defense that came to play, that were hungry to attack. If it wasn't for, them starting an undrafted free agent at quarterback, Minnesota maybe could have had a chance. But Seattle looks really good. They're 9-3. With LA losing, they're now tied. And with their final 5 games, Seattle, if they win that game against the Rams, they have a path to make it to the number 1 seed and be a Super Bowl contender, and that's all you want. Seattle, offense didn't look the greatest, but the defense made up for it, and that's all you can ask for. For Minnesota, it's just been a lost year. Hopefully McCarthy can come back and you see what maybe he has the rest of the year, but the Vikings need to bring in a veteran. They need to bring in somebody to help to give competition to McCarthy. Give him at least an opportunity to earn the job, because so far Minnesota has clearly regretted moving on from both Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones, because either one of those guys would be playing a lot better football and would at least have Minnesota competing instead of this team being 4-8 and most definitely missing out on the playoffs. But on Raiders at the Chargers, LA looked just as good as they have most of the season. Justin Herbert did get injured, and there's still no indication on whether he'll be good to go for this upcoming week or how long he'll be out. But a win is a win. The Chargers are 8-4. The defense looks really good. The offense, it's playing decent, and I mean with the Chiefs losing and being 6-6, Chargers might be able to get into the playoffs, and it'd be a successful year probably, even though they probably wanted to go farther. At least making the playoffs in a year where they've been banged up all over the offense is just a good job. For the Raiders, I mean, you would hope for maybe improvement now that Chip Kelly was gone, but this team is just not very good. And hey, Pete Carroll most likely fired. Geno Smith most likely has to stick around because of the guaranteed money, but the team needs to go into full rebuild mode. They need to fully embrace rebuilding and actually build up this roster to where in a couple years they can compete with the Chargers, Broncos, and Chiefs along with the rest of the AFC, because right now they just do not look very good, and the rest of their schedule, it does not look very favorable. Maybe they somehow pull off an upset, but for the most part, I think this Raiders team is done, and they just need to move on to 2026. Moving on to the Bills at the Steelers. I mean, this was a game Buffalo, it felt like was going to lose. Like off the Texans game, It felt like without their top two tackles, it felt like this game was going to be a game, especially early on when it was 7-3. It was like, is Buffalo really going to lose this? But the defense came in clutch with some turnovers. The offense started to make plays and really played well, and they're 8-4. They got the Bengals this week. So if you win that one, you have a chance to make it a one game lead with the Patriots if they're able to beat New England in 2 weeks. And the Bills still are a playoff contender, even if this team clearly has shown that they're not the greatest, but this game proved that, hey, Buffalo can run the ball, they can play well. If this defense makes plays, they can be still a serious contender. And they're 8-4. That's all you got to ask for Pittsburgh. I mean, everybody should have known this was coming. I mean, they always start off good and everybody starts hyping them up and then they fall apart. It always happens. Pittsburgh's now 6-6 after everybody hyping them up early on in the season. They just fell apart like they always do, and they're 6-6. They have the Ravens this week, and I mean this team just does not look very much like the old Steelers teams, but they're still always going to finish 9 wins and miss the playoffs most likely. And that's what the Steelers are at this point. On to Sunday Night Football, Broncos at the Commanders. I mean, talk about a great game. Denver, the offense did start to play much better. Was against a not so great Washington defense that was making plays, but Bo Nix played well. He was, you know, early on it wasn't looking the greatest, but he started to figure it out. And this Broncos team, with how great their defense is, they are a contender no matter what. And if this offense plays just like decent, they can win games. And they're 10-2. They have a real shot to get the number one seed. And we'll just have to see how the season goes for Washington. Showing, that they're competitive is good. They play the Vikings next week, which could be a win, and then the Giants. So, hey, maybe they can string some wins together, finish out the year strong, um, and hopefully maybe take some momentum at the end of this year into next year. Um, but they looked good, and hey, that's all you can count for is the team looks good despite all the injuries, despite the not so great year. And then finally, Monday Night Football, Giants at the Pats. New England, I mean, they look for real. Just like Denver, they look like a contender. They're 11-2, heading on their bye. So, hey, we'll see. If this team's going to be healthier off the bye, how they look even better. And Drake May looks for real. This defense makes plays, and I mean, last week against the Bengals, it was close. It felt like maybe New England was, having Cincinnati keep it in the game longer than they should have. But this game, outside of it, early second quarter touchdown and almost field goal by the Giants, New England dominated. I mean, they really proved that they can dominate teams, they can destroy them, and that's what they did. They played a bad team and they dominated, and that's all you can count for. For the Giants, like I said with the Titans and Saints, you just want to lose out. Like you want to see Jackson Dart play well. You want to see this team show flashes, but you want to lose these games, get a top draft pick, and probably trade it back to a QB needy team and build around this young team. Hopefully, you get the right coach to help out Dart and Scatterboo and Neighbors when they're healthy. Because this team has some pieces, and if you get the right coach, the Giants could be right back into contending. And yeah, but that'll do it for you guys. Hope you have a great day. Hope you hit the like button, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. But until then, bye.